Hello, and welcome to the Daily Debrief Download, an audio series taking you through the latest stories and the breaking news from the Oceanographic Newsroom. I'm Rob Hutchins, news editor here at Oceanographic Magazine, and in today's episode, I'll be switching things up to the norm as I lead us on a casual swim through the biggest stories from the Oceanographic Newsroom. We start our global spanning adventure today in Europe, where Spain and France have just become the first European countries to ratify the United Nations High Seas Treaty, a mechanism developed by the UN to protect the swathes of open ocean that fall outside of national jurisdictions. It's these open waters that have been pinpointed as crucial areas of the ocean to protect through a network of international marine protected areas. If the world is to achieve its globally agreed target to protect 30% of the ocean by 2030. This year has been earmarked as a pivotal moment for the High Seas Treaty, which, having been adopted by countries around the world back in 2023, must now be ratified by at least 60 countries for it to enter into full force. France and Spain are two of the largest and the only European countries to join the list of 17 nations that have now ratified the treaty, joining the likes of Chile, Cuba, and the Maldives. While the treaty has received the signatures of some 108 countries, the majority, including the UK, are yet to enshrine the treaty into their own laws. But it's vital that they do. The high seas make up 2/3 of the global ocean and are home to a spectrum of marine life, including giant marine mammals and migratory fish. They are also critical carbon stores and play a key role in the carbon and nutrient cycle, locking atmospheric and oceanic carbon into the sea floor. They are also areas that require a cohesive approach and enforced protection, particularly as conversation around deep-sea mining and overfishing, two of the largest threats and two of the most exploitative practices across the ocean, gather apace. Campaigners are now on a mission to see the High Seas Treaty ratified by the required 60 nations ahead of the next United Nations Oceans Conference taking place in France this June. A spin of the globe, and our next story from today's leading headlines takes us to Florida's East Coast, where, if you've traveled here by boat, you might want to consider getting yourself a bigger one. Yes, that clumsy reference to the Steven Spielberg classic Jaws is indeed an attempt to draw our attention to a fascinating first for shark researchers who have just tagged the largest ever recorded great white shark in the Atlantic. It was mid-January when the team at OCEARCH came across this true ocean giant, a great white shark weighing in at 1,653 pounds and measuring 13 feet 9 inches long. The male great white was given the name Contender, named after Contender Boats, a partner on the expedition, and was spotted some 45 miles offshore. The giant was tagged by OCEARCH researchers so the team can learn more about the species' behaviors and migration patterns, which, as it turns out, in the few short weeks since he was tagged, have taken the great white 300 miles further out to sea and south towards northern Florida. The spot tag now deployed on Contender should provide valuable real-time data for the next 5 years, the team has said, which is just long enough for Spielberg to put together another Jaws sequel. From one cultural reference to another, life certainly does seem to be imitating art this week, particularly in China, where researchers have just named a newly discovered species of fish after a character from a popular Studio Ghibli animated film, for bearing very similar facial markings. The Bronchiostegosaceae is a newly discovered species of deep-water tilefish belonging to the family Bronchiostegidae, and has been so named after the character San from Studio Ghibli's most popular and culturally significant animated film, Princess Mononoke. The reason being that Bronchiostegosaceae bears facial markings in a very similar pattern to those worn by the character. It's not unusual for new species to be named after cultural tentpoles. Last month, a newly discovered species of giant isopod was named Bathynomus vaderi for its resemblance to the Sith Lord Darth Vader from the Star Wars saga. The naming of this deep-water tilefish is, however, more than a nod to a popular movie. The lead author of the study has claimed that the name also refers to the film's narrative about the harmonic coexistence of humanity and nature. It is, he says, a message to the world for what we could all achieve in harmony with our natural environment. Bronchiostegus sinae was in fact discovered at an online seafood market and determined to be a new species through genetic analysis. It belongs to a family of deep-water tilefish found in regions of the South China Sea at depths of as much as 600 meters. In the 20 years between 1994 and 2004, only 3 new species of Bronchiostegus have been described, making sinae somewhat of a rarity. If you'd like to learn more about this story and all of today's headlines, then head to the Oceanographic newsroom. This has been the Daily Debrief Download. I've been Rob Hutchins. Thank you for listening.